Welcome to the Fanatical Elfz Show, part of the L Network. We are a bunch of wild and crazy Cleveland Browns fans, bringing you all the latest in Browns news. Tune in now. Well, good evening, everybody, and it's a Thursday night, so that means the Fanatical Elfz are here. We got Steve Gill, we got Jarrell Flint, and you got yours truly, John Suchan, Johnny Cleveland in the house. Thank you for being here on the Fanatical Elfz Network. We appreciate all of you tuning in, watching us crazy and wild Browns fans just like you. Steve Gill, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, John. How are you?
I see you're wearing a Cleveland Guardians hat.
Yes, I am. I can't wait for Saturday.
Should be fun. I got mine too, buddy. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm a little stressed. I'm trying to corral three last extensions.
Okay.
It's like herding cats this time of year. They've got to get so
right.
you know.
Well, good luck with that. No,
well, that's what I was built for. So.
We are excited about the Guardians. We are wearing our hats, and as they start Saturday afternoon, they're going to play the Detroit Tigers, which probably nobody had on their bingo card at the beginning of the year for the American League
trading deadline.
Yeah, they
were selling players.
Yes, 1,000 players. They were 10,000 games behind,
yes.
But they have come back in a vengeance, and they beat the Houston Astros.
Cheaters.
Yeah, cheaters. 2 games. But isn't their coach now for the Tigers the former Astros coach that was the cheater, right?
I don't know.
Okay.
I really don't pay attention to only one major league manager.
And then the
Kansas City manager of the year, by the way.
Yes. Kansas City Royals, also from the American League Central. They beat the Baltimore
division
Orioles. And so we have 3 American League Central. We better get some respect now going into the next season as they take on the New York Yankees in the pinstripes. So we're looking forward to that. So what this means is that there will be, American League Central team wouldn't that be fascinating if the Guardians win and then the Royals beat the Yankees, and that would assure that there would be a team from the American League Central in the World Series.
And every game would start at noon.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I know our game's on at 1:00, but if you're an Ohio State Buckeye fan, I saw the Gerald McNeil, or the guy that covers the Browns. He already posted his, Guardians on at 1, Ohio State Buckeyes on at 3:30. Drinking starts at 8:00 at night in prep for the Browns game the following day. So we're all set for that. Jarrell, how are you? Jarrell Flint in the house. Dog food radio programming. Awesome stuff. Jarrell, thank you for being here. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. Do y'all know what the name of the Baltimore Orioles were before they were the Baltimore Orioles?
St. Louis Browns.
The St. Louis Browns. Don't you find that ironic that Baltimore got both teams named the Browns?
I find that ironic.
That is very
there you go.
St. Louis Browns.
I never
put the two together. I knew it was St. Louis Browns.
Jarrell,
I was alive when they moved. That's how old I am.
Now, wait a second. When did they move to Baltimore?
I wasn't alive.
Oh, you weren't alive.
Yeah, I don't know
my
when
parents
they did, but I know they were
a
big team in the 40s, because I think they were somewhat dominant. If my
they were.
Serves me correct.
Yeah.
But,
well, and I lived in Kansas City, so I had a lot of friends that are Kansas City Royals fans. And the Royals have really, you go back a little way. I mean, they've been successful for the last decade. They've had some really good teams that come through Kansas City. That's a wonderful place to go see a baseball game, too. If you haven't been to a Major League Baseball park outside of Cleveland, I would strongly urge everybody to go catch Kansas City. They got the fountains out there in the outfield. Just a really cool venue. So we got football to talk about. We got a Browns team that's 1-3 coming into this weekend. They play the Washington Redskins. I'm sorry, the Commanders. Had to get that in. I'm still
Hello,
frustrated
Drew.
by the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs and the Atlanta Braves, they still have their team names. And we went through all this stuff with the Washington team and the Cleveland team. It's just kind of a weird thing, I feel like.
Don't forget
the
the
Blackhawks.
Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah, the Blackhawks. I mean, I don't know. It's just okay. Well, that's another conversation. But okay, so we're playing the Commanders on Sunday. We're playing against a really good, and Jarrell, I want to get into this with you later. Maybe not right now, but on some of the statistics. Just I was glancing at them, and I was going to throw a few things out to you guys, and later on in the show to get your opinion. But one of the things that struck me just overall going into this game is that they don't have a very good passing defense. Like other teams are going very well against them, doing good things. And so maybe we could see someone like Deshaun Watson, really, really get it in the high gear. He had a good game the last time he played out in Washington when Cooper caught 2 touchdown passes. Anyway, that's one weakness on their team right now. Now they have a good quarterback in Jaden Daniels. So what are your just initial takes on this game going into it? Jarrell, let's start with you. What are you thinking, like just overall, like what are you expecting? What do you think? And we'll get into some other details later, but
well, they offensively, the Commanders are number 3 in team offense. They
Yeah.
are 12th in passing.
Yep.
And third third in rushing. And like you said, in defense, they are currently number 25 in
Yep.
team defense.
Yep.
22
down there.
against the pass.
Yeah.
22 against the pass, 23 against the run. So the problem that I think would the Browns could run into is that if it turns into a shootout,
Yeah.
who do you trust more? Because this team hasn't scored more than 20 points yet.
Right.
And they're probably going to need 25, 27 unless the defense just, puts on a clinic.
Right.
So this could potentially be a matchup problem for them just because of how anemic the offense has been. Y'all know my stance on Stefanski and his play calling.
Right.
I'm not feeling good about this matchup for them.
Okay.
Because what they have to do offensively, probably.
Okay. I was trying to find one weakness. Steve, what do you think?
First of all, I am shocked that Washington is only a 3-point favorite.
That's your standard, right?
I thought Vegas? 6 at least,
right?
Maybe 7. Yeah, their offense is. Well, this will be in my article on Saturday, my preview article. But here's a few things: they averaged 3.6 points per drive, per scoring. Jaden Daniels, over his last 53 passes, he's completed 47 of them. Yeah. I mean, they have the number 2 offensive line in pass blocking. They're number 1 in third down conversion. They're number 1 in fourth down conversion. They're 6 for 6 on fourth down. Their punter has only punted 4 times this year and only once in 3 games.
He hasn't punted the last 2 games, right?
No, he punted once in the last 3, and that was 3 games ago.
That's right. So
he hadn't punted twice. Yeah, he hadn't punted. What else?
Well, that'll be a good sign if we see Washington run out their punter.
That would be if he punts more than 1 time, the defense is doing their job.
Yes.
The thing about Washington, and yes, Jarrell is right. Their pass defense, their secondary is incredibly bad. Every member of their secondary allows a quarterback rating over 100. They got a safety who is allowing a perfect passer rating. You can run on them, but you got to do it on the ends. I mean, they got a great up the middle. Of course, they got Bobby Wagner as their middle linebacker, Mr.
Oh,
Tackle.
really? Bobby Wagner.
Yeah, he tackles everything. But both their rush ends are like only 245, 250 pounds.
Okay.
So if you can get on the end with sweeps or screens or things like that, you can run on them. They allow 6.2 yards a carry. So, and I went back and watched 3 of their games. And, the Cincinnati game,
Yeah.
Cincinnati got in the first half, got in the red zone 3
Every
times
time,
and came away with only 2 field goals.
Okay.
They got too fancy when they got in the red zone.
Okay.
I mean, if they had just ran the ball, they probably would have scored touchdowns and probably would have beat them. But, then in the second half, it just got carried away. Same with Arizona. Arizona they're not that good. But still, James Conner of Arizona had 100 yards over 100 yards rushing against this defense.
Okay.
So,
well, let me ask you this, because let's just get it. I mentioned a few stats, and Jarrell, I know you probably have some stats out in front of you. I had a couple that just to go along with what we're talking about. I'm trying to pull them up here real quick. Show them. Okay. One of them. All right. Let me look here. I think this was yards. Okay. Rushing yards. The Browns have given up 484 rushing yards. So 493 rushing yards so far this year. The Commanders have given up 546. So they're pretty even defensively as far as giving up what they do on rushes. Let's see here. I have all these things I wrote down, and now let's see here.
I can't find it.
I know, darn it. I had this. Crap. Well, there was one stat, offensively, the Browns have been sacked 19 times. I think they lead the league in sacks so far.
Yep.
I think Washington only had like 2. I want to say they've only been sacked.
They've
twice.
been sacked 9 times, but only 1 has been credited to the offensive line. So that tells me Jaden Daniels runs into sacks.
Yes. Here's one stat I wanted to talk to you about too, was on the rushing side of things, that the Browns, and Jarrell, you've kind of talked about this in previous topics, but we've always talked about the Browns having a really good run game. And the last several seasons with Nick Chubb, and even last year when he was out, we still were toward the top of rushing in the league. Now, who's always next to us and who's still there are the Baltimore Ratbirds. They're consistently, they're way ahead of everybody this year. The Browns this year are toward the bottom. They only have 379 yards of rushing, and are toward the bottom half of rankings, while the Commanders aren't much better. But I just saw that stat and I was like, ooh, that's something. Again, we have not established the run. Do you see that changing in a game like this, where we've already said that the Commanders they don't have a real good passing defense? I have a feeling that Stefanski's going to try to really throw the ball maybe earlier,
like he always does. So to answer your question, no, I have no confidence. If they need to run the ball 30 times, football is a simple game. You attack the weakness. If the weakness is in the run game, you run the ball. That's one thing. Bill Belichick, if they needed to run it 35 times with a fullback, they would run the ball 35 times. That's the thing I've noticed about Stefanski. He doesn't adapt to what the matchup is. He wants to win the way that he wants to win, which is for some reason. And I think back to the Indianapolis game last season, where he said in his press conference, the players were begging for a run call on the 5. Do y'all remember that game? The players were begging for a run, and he kept calling passes. He said, "Oh, the run is coming. The run is coming." I saw.
I do. I remember that sequence. And I remember him talking about that. So I mean, you don't have a lot of faith, Steve. Do you think? Well, let me ask you this question. Now we have got news today. Alex Wright on the defensive side of the ball tore had that bicep, which is a horrible injury. So he's had surgery and he's done. And that came out of left field pretty much today, right?
Yeah, sure did.
And he's had a pretty good start to the season.
Very.
That's going to hurt our defense. We already have Myles Garrett, who's pretty much just not practicing during the week and just going.
Oh, he practiced today.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah.
We got to score more points than them, and we have only averaging 16 points a game right now. Where do we get those extra points, Steve? Where do we get those extra points?
Well, like I said, and I say it every week. Basically, I want the Browns team that takes the opening drive every game and goes down, chews up like 9-10 minutes of clocks, 15 to 17-minute drive, scores. I want that team to play the entire game.
Yeah.
And for some odd reason, they vanish. And the problem is they get on third down and third and long. Mm-hmm. They've got to do a better job on first down, making it 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4. Let's not get into third down, because anytime they get into a third down, they don't make it. At one point last week, after the opening drive, they were 0 for 7 on third down conversions. And the way you do that is you got to run the ball. I mean, let's just stick to it. You have to commit to it and do it. I remember a game here in Nashville. I think it was 2014 with Mike Pettin, and the Titans got up huge at halftime. 28-10. Third and fourth quarter, Pettin was still running the ball. And that helped get them back, and they won that game.
They won that game.
Road victory by a visiting team.
Was that Brian Hoyer who won that one?
Yes.
I was at that game.
Were you there?
I was at that game too.
Yeah, I was at that one.
And they had a 3-headed running back.
Well, this is what I'm trying to get at, is that the Baltimore Ratbirds, they, despite all of the rough start, and part of it is that Lamar Jackson is their quarterback, and he gets a good chunk of rushing yards. Obviously, I know that helps, but they've consistently been up there, and we've been up there consistently with Nick Chubb. Now we're not. And it just goes back to everything that we're talking about when we talk about people like the coach Stefanski and play calling. And when you're passing the ball 37 times and handing the ball off to your running backs 12 times, there's just that's not good balance. And I don't understand. I don't understand what Stefanski's looking at. And when he continues to say after every press conference, we got to be better. I got to be better. We got to be better. They got to be better. We all got to be better. I'm like, for God's sakes,
I got to be better.
I mean, you've done doing this.
See what went wrong, and it's the same. It's the same answers every week.
Now, let me ask you this. Let me
just cover what I just said with one little fact.
Sorry. Yeah,
they need healthy offensive linemen. I mean, you got to have healthy tackles to do this stuff.
Yeah,
you can't have Zach Zinter in there. He played a good part of a game 2 games ago, and then he completely showed why he's a rookie last week. I thought the fact that Michael Dunn is back to practice was huge. Guy can play both guard position and center. Posick was back to practice today. Both Wills and Conklin were back to practice today. So hopefully they haven't had a healthy offensive line all year. Let's get some guys healthy, but also there are ways you can get around this terrible offensive line and still run the ball. They got to run the ball.
Well, Jarrell, I had a conversation with a colleague of mine, football used to be a head football coach, all this stuff. And we taught, we're all been, some of us have coached, over the times. And, we got Sam joining us. Awesome. Hey, Sam.
Wow.
So here's my question to everybody. So what they were taught, he says, it's not like, how we talk about how Stefanski's not adjusting Jarrell, how we say it, like he can't get that opening drive, he can do all this stuff. And then we've been giving credit to like Andy Reid and some of these other coaches that, you've shown some stats on, but this coach and I, we were talking, the other day, and he's like, it's about the players. It's about the talent. And he says, Andy Reid, he's considered a great coach, but he also has Patrick Mahomes quarterbacking and Travis Kelce catching passes. And so he says it's more about the players. And so there's this conversation about, that. And so because I say to him back, I said, well, on paper, the Browns have this very talented team, supposedly. So why aren't they doing what Kansas City's doing under, Andy Reid? And so anyhow, just this conversation, because he basically says it has nothing to do with me as a coach. And I'm like, well, okay, I don't totally agree with that, because I've been a coach too.
Yeah,
and
I disagree.
I think you have to have some, as a coach, you have to get buy-in, right? So that's where, are the Browns going to buy in? It sounded like this week, listening to players like Rodney McLeod and some other players that were interviewed, that they really are going to try to really work at this, and they're going to do more. I guess that was the call today, was the coaches and the players kept telling themselves, we got to do more. We got to do more. And so maybe that will drive them to be successful this week. I don't know.
Well, I would push back what that coach said, because you got to have the requisite talent, but there have been coaches that have been able to get more out of less talent. So it's what I was saying last week. It's an organizational thing. As much as it pains me to say this, the Ravens have been a better organization as a whole than the Browns in the last 20 years. I don't think anybody would dispute that. Same thing with the Steelers. Same thing with the Bengals. I don't think anybody would dispute that. And the reason that the leadership, I put it on the coaching, is that we look at the roster and you say, okay, well, you're not really missing anything defensively. You went and got all these receivers. You're supposed to have Nick Chubb coming back. The pieces on the board should be enough. We've watched this team multiple times. Let's go back to last year. Let's go back to the playoffs when they played the Texans. Stefanski, he just threw a pick six. Why are you dialing up another pass play? The strength isn't your quarterback. The strength isn't your offense. The strength is your defense. Why don't you play a field?
But it was Flacco-mania.
Well, that's to me, that's why I say it's the coaches, because to your point, what you talked about, the on-fly adjustments.
Yeah. Football
is a war game. If we're in a war, you're supposed to know, okay, this is what we're going to do to attack them. I just don't see it with the current leadership.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to do that. As a head coach, he's too busy calling the plays, looking at the Denny's menu.
We're still talking about that damn Denny's menu. The guys over at Dog Pound Daily, they just hated me because I'd bring up that Denny's menu 3 years ago. And I'm like, well, it's true. It's kind of a funny thing because we're all talking, I don't know.
And he doesn't have any grand slams on his Denny's menu.
No.
Stats prove that.
Sam, how are you tonight?
I'm good. It's been nice and cool-ish. But I'm good. I'm just disappointed in the Browns. Been a disappointing season. Disappointing start to the season, at least.
Well, one positive, Sam, today and yesterday was that Nick Chubb is back.
I think that will change a lot of things. I think our offensive line being hurt is still going to be a problem, but I think that will really help.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think just fans are a little bit more pumped now. People say, oh, is he coming back? Like, people are asking me, is he going to start? I'm like, no, he's not starting. He just started coming back to practice. It might be, what did you say, Steve? What weeks do you think?
Week 7.
Week 7. So we're in week
They're
4.
waiting for offensive line stability and a home game.
So that's game would be against the Bungles.
That's what I was told. They want offensive line stability and a home game.
Okay. So that's what we're gearing up for. He looks great. I mean, people are coming in. He's not wearing anything on his knees. He talked about it being a dream. He talked about it being like riding a bike and getting back and wanting to go fast. And, it's truly, he is an inspiration and someone who is when I think about wanting to love the Cleveland Browns, that's the reason why I love the Cleveland Browns, are because of players like Nick Chubb. That's what I will remember, as I continue on my fandom for this team long after he's gone. I'll remember Nick Chubb and the dedication he made to this team. So what about you guys? Are you excited about Nick Chubb coming back? Anybody?
Yeah, definitely. And that's
Yeah.
important.
I'd rather see Hines play this week. I think he could give them a better spark right now than.
Is he further along, you think?
According to the beat writers who were there, he looks like he's more ready than Nick Chubb.
Okay.
So, and he can give you so many dimensions. He's like a Dave Meggett, for those who remember.
Oh,
Dave
yes,
Meggett
I remember him.
type of back.
Sure.
And,
Yeah.
you know.
Interesting.
So, and I hope Njoku plays this week. That would help tremendously.
I think I cut him off of my fantasy league team this week because I just wasn't sure. And I sucked
hope
my
he
fantasy
plays.
league teams.
He's a fantastic blocker, and the guy's just a physical freak.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he and Watson in training camp were like
Okay.
on the same page. So
Okay.
let's hope that happens.
Well, let's go ahead and pause for a quick break here on the Fanatical Elfz Network. We'll be right back. Thank you for coming back to the Fanatical Elfz Show. It's a Thursday night. We got Steve, Jarrell, and Sam here, along with myself, John, and okay, Jarrell, Steve, remind me, what did we want to talk about after the break? I forgot. What was the hot topic, Jarrell?
I thought Jarrell brought up a great
Yes.
notion before we came on the air. Can the Browns get to double-digit wins this season after a 1-3 start? Can they?
I say no, based on how
In
they've
theory,
started.
they can. I don't know if they will, but in theory, they can.
In theory, they could, but a realist in me tells me, boy, something unusual is going to happen for that to happen.
Because you're saying
Fine,
we
Sam
can only
Darnold.
lose, what, 4 games now the rest of the season?
Yeah.
You get there?
More or less, yeah, about 4.
Yeah. So,
17-game season, so 10-7 is the best they can do.
mm,
Now, you know, Baltimore did you a favor by starting in the hole. So, but the problem is somebody's going to start stacking the wins,
mhm.
and you know,
Baltimore looks
if
like they're
you
starting
can't
that
do
right
it,
Yeah.
if you can't do it in this stretch before you get into the gauntlet, I think these next 3 weeks are going to determine what happens in the season, because I think they got to win the division to make the playoffs.
So basically, I mean,
I think it's going to be too crowded in the wild cards.
yeah, must win Sunday. With that, if they lose, then
1-4.
1-4 and you're headed to Philly after coming off a bye.
I'm not that scared of Philly.
No,
Right
they
now,
sound like
they
they're
look-
in shambles too right now.
Man,
But it's Philly.
talk about a coach on the hot seat.
Yes. I heard they have their own prison in Philadelphia. Is that right?
Yeah, they
At the
have a
stadium?
jail down inside the
They have a
stadium.
jail?
Yeah.
I've been not surprised, but they always, I don't know if it's just social media and they're just broadcasting more of them, but the number of people that are fighting at some of these games, I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Ridiculous.
Like, I don't know, like, especially out west, like the Los Angeles games, it seems like there's always a fight. I don't know. Maybe I'm watching too many damn things on social media, but
Yeah, you might be, or they may be drinking.
Yeah, I think you might be, John.
no.
Well, you could drink while you're watching social media, and then it'll make sense.
All right, so we're not looking at a 10-win season, and
Possibly.
I just, I know we've all
We'll
talked
see.
about this topic all since the beginning of the time. And Steve, you talked about on your Dog Pound South show, you started your show off by saying you were surprised where we're at right now. You didn't expect us to be at this point, especially considering that the teams, and you pointed out, and everyone else has pointed out, that the teams combined records at this point are 5-11.
Yeah, teams they've beat. Their record is 5-11.
5-11, and we're 1-3.
Yeah.
And
we're doing the opposite of what they're doing the opposite of what they did last year. Everybody said, "Ooh, that's a tough start of the schedule," and they weathered it well. And this time, this is an easy schedule. No, not really.
Yeah,
this has been a weird NFL season.
Mhm.
I mean, Monday night the Titans put a 30 on the Dolphins.
I'm just hoping that
with Mason Rudolph,
contributing
the most. Mason Rudolph. I mean, this has just been the strangest season I have ever seen. I mean, you got a rookie in Washington
It's wild.
who's
Wild.
completing 82% of his passes right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam Darnold is MVP right now.
Exactly. Sam Darnold.
Right. No, it's
crazy.
really made it hell for our fantasy league football fans across the globe too, because there's no rhyme or reason for anything
3-1.
right now.
Not trying to.
Oh. Well, I'm 0-4, damn it, in all of my leagues.
Well, you.
Yikes.
And I've had my
say.
dues for. I'm in my school, my league with this at school with my colleagues, and we have this bet going on. Like if you every week there's several teams that we go up, match up against each other, and we have this spinner that there's a main matchup, and I've been on that main matchup twice already. And if you lose the matchup, you owe everybody a dozen donuts, or you have to bring in donuts and I've already lost twice. So I'm tired of giving out donuts, Sam.
Well, maybe you should take advice from Sam. Just
yeah,
saying.
Sam, how did you? So here's the thing. You know how I got messed up was that I took Christian McCaffrey with the number one pick. Everyone that took Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he's in Germany now trying to get healed up.
I got really lucky, and I didn't get. I got the 2 pick, not the 1, and had to take.
Who'd you take with 2? Oh, you took CeeDee Lamb. Yeah.
I'm not all perfect though. I have 3 hurt tight ends right now. I have 5 tight ends on my team in total.
Yeah, there's just, and then this week too, there's bye weeks for Philadelphia, and so you're having to adjust there. Looking at this game, you don't want to give a prediction today, that's fine, but where do you think the Browns have? I mean, we all think the Browns have a shot at winning this game, and the NFL can be very weird, like we just said. So the Browns could go out and beat the Commanders 33-13 on Sunday, and people would be like, what just happened? We'd be happy, but it would be a complete reversal of what we've seen the first 4 weeks of the season. Is there any? I don't think that's going to happen. I'm a Browns fan. We all are going to be optimistic, or at least I'm optimistic that they could win. Do you think they're going to win on Sunday? And what do you think it's going to take for them to get that win? They're going to have to score more than 16 points, like you said, Jarrell, unless the defense. See, that's where I think the defense, they don't have any interceptions right now on the season.
Their secondary has allowed 10 touchdown passes. They've gotten 0 interceptions.
Right. So we need a couple interceptions. Maybe a pick 6 would be very nice, and maybe rattle Jaden Daniels. Probably not going to happen, but that's wishful thinking. What do you guys all think? What do you think, Steve?
I put it this way. The Browns defense is the best defense the Commanders have faced this year. Unfortunately, the Washington offense is the best offense the Browns have faced this year. But the Washington has not faced anyone like Myles Garrett. And they're going to have to, Cliff Kingsbury, who is the OC, is going to have to scheme for that. So I am more concerned about the Browns' defensive tackles than I am anything else. They're just getting not any pressure up the middle. Yeah, and they're letting everybody and their grandmother run against them. I mean, look at the running backs for Washington. I mean, you got Brian Robinson, our all-time favorite nemesis, Austin Eckler, and then Jerry McNichols. I mean, these are 3 good backs. Mm-hmm. So, and
so we haven't had a 300
Daniels who could take off at any moment.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I watched the game they lost against Tampa week 1, and they got after Daniels with either a safety or a linebacker, kind of like the Browns always play Lamar Jackson. They harassed him quite a bit.
Well, and that was game 1 too, so maybe
that was game 1. So,
settled in a little bit, but the Browns
settled in the second half.
Drill, what do you think tomorrow on Sunday? The Browns, I don't think have had correct me if I'm wrong, haven't had a 300-yard offensive game yet. Is that true? Or a 300-yard offensive? No,
I don't think they have.
I don't think they have. I saw
let's see.
some stat that said that
Yeah,
the
they
only
haven't
team in
had
the
a two.
NFL.
Nope. Yeah,
Yeah.
297 total yards against the Jaguars,
Yeah.
and the most they've had passing yards is 172. And I believe that Kevin Stefanski has only had 10 300-yard passing games since he has been the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. You may want
Wow.
to fact check me on that, but I believe that it has only been 10, which at the current trajectory, what's that going to break down to? 2 or 3 a year.
Mhm.
I think this game, the chess match, I think is going to come down to the offensive coordinators. And again, I think any given Sunday, obviously they can win, but
Yeah.
I just don't trust Kevin Stefanski to make
Mhm.
in-game adjustments. He's handcuffing this team. The first 10, if every drive could be like the first 10 plays,
Yeah.
and maybe they just need to reshuffle the 10 plays and run different variations of those 10 plays and just switch the formations, maybe that's all they need to go to. But I think if it's a nip and tuck game, I don't trust him. I trust the players. I don't trust Kevin Stefanski, and for that, I don't think they would. I don't think they're going to win.
Yeah. I guess that's the way to go. As Browns fans, so often we've gone into these games over the years, not maybe recently, but it's like, okay, we're gonna in those years when we'd always lose, when we were 0-17 or 0-16 or something, you go to the games in week 8, 9, and 10 and go, okay, well, we're gonna lose, but maybe there's a shot at winning, and so that kept you some hope. So Sam, what do you think? Hope?
I mean, they have not been good at passing. They have not been good at running. They have not been good at just about anything this year. I again have an example of the offensive scheme is a big problem because we really shouldn't have our head coach trying to call our offensive coordinators plays. I don't know why that hasn't been given up right now. I think it should have been given up week 1.
They haven't even talked about it, according to Stefanski.
Yeah, I gave the example on my podcast where it's like a 5'2" person and a 6'1" person riding motorcycles, and it's telling the 6'1" person to go get on the 5'2" person's bike, and have the 5'2" person get on the 6'1" bike. So the 5'2" person can't even reach the handlebars and basically falls over because their feet can't touch the floor, while the 6'1" person has his elbows draping off the handlebars and has to sit crisscross applesauce on the seat, and his feet are still touching the ground.
Crisscross applesauce.
Applesauce.
Oh,
I gotta
man.
remember that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what
That's what our first grade PE teachers called it.
Crisscross applesauce. I gotta remember that.
That's kind of my example for it, and I think that's what's really holding this team back. I don't know if it's all of it. I think Deshaun Watson just hasn't played great. We haven't had a running back. We haven't had an offensive line. We've dealt with a bunch of injuries. I think it's a culmination of a million things.
When you listen to that broadcast the other day on Sunday last week, the announcers were like, well, this is pretty much the same team as a year ago. The same players, the same makeup, the same coaches. I mean, I know we've lost offensively, the different coaches, but it's pretty much the same makeup. And yet here we are 1-3. It just that I was hopeful that this team would get off to a better start. They haven't. It goes. I just look back at the 2020 season and all the euphoria coming out of that, and I know it's a different quarterback, all that stuff, but it's just, and it comes back to coaching, and it comes back to what all of you were talking about, and Sam just now about giving up the play calling, and Stefanski is just hell bent on doing it his way, and I mean, the only way that that's going to happen, right, is at this point is if the owner, Haslam, basically tells Stefanski, okay, you're done coaching. I mean, calling the plays. That's probably the first step. Do we all agree that that's the only way that this is going to happen right now?
I don't think the owner is going to do that. I don't think they're going to do that. I think
Jimmy ain't going to do that.
No.
Okay,
why not?
He's learned his lesson since prior to the Andrew Berry Stefanski era, where he made so many damn mistakes. One, telling him to draft Johnny Manziel, and just hiring. What was his name? The former Packer head coach, Mike Holmgren.
Mike Holmgren.
Who all he did was drive around training camp in a golf cart with a drink with an umbrella in it. I mean, I think Haslam has learned his lesson. So I don't think he'll do that.
So we're just going to continue down this path of misery. Is that what you're saying? And unless
they turn it around and show some improvement.
So you keep just keep his job.
The one thing I did see last week, Deshaun Watson played a hell of a lot better. Hell of a lot better. I mean, he's got players around him who are not executing.
Well,
I mean,
if he doesn't drop, if those two passes don't get dropped and the touchdown.
Well, there was one pass where he threw and he got nailed, and it was for a first down. But your offensive tackle, James Hudson, who should not be on this team.
Yeah.
The video, you slow it down. He olayed the guy who hit Watson after he threw the ball. And if this is the line of scrimmage, this is what you saw of Hudson. Running after the guy with his arms out.
Yeah.
That's not a good look for a left tackle.
Yeah.
So, if the players can execute and stop making killing mistakes at the wrong time, they could possibly start winning some games. But that, right now, if you look at it at a whole, this is a team of 1,000 cuts. And you never know when it's all going to come together. You just don't.
If he's not going to give up play calling, and this whole thing continues to be the mess that it is, and they continue to lose games, and they end up being, let's say,
then they'll fire Dorsey and they'll hire a new offensive coordinator.
They're gonna fire Dorsey and not fire Stefanski. So you think that Stefanski is completely safe if they're 2-3 and 10?
Yes.
You think that he's safe?
Yes.
Okay.
2 coach of the years.
And that's piss.
They might be fraudulent coach of the years, but I think people appreciate that and they want to keep him.
Yeah. Who wants to keep him? The owner?
I feel like the owner and the manager, the managerial staff, things like that, they just want to keep him.
Even if they're 3 and 10, they're going to stay. Well, this is what the Steelers do. They're going to keep their coach like Mike Tomlin. But despite seeing all the evidence, all the numbers, and I know stats don't show everything, Steve, like you and I talked about before the show.
Well,
yeah.
Do you want to go back to the days where one year they fire the head coach, next year they fire the GM, next year they fire the head coach?
Yeah, but
they're trying to get the consistency, like Gerald said, of the Baltimore Ravens, of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have consistency, even when their teams aren't playing well.
But we're showing a consistency.
They don't fire the head coach.
We're showing a consistency.
But may I interject? When their teams aren't playing well, it don't look as bad as the Browns look under Stefanski. That we've been watching this team for 3 to 4 years to where it looks like it's a chore for them to get the ball up and down the field. And I argue that Kevin Stefanski, while he's giving you competitiveness, he's inconsistent. That's number one. But I think you've seen what his ceiling is. I think he can get you to the first round of the playoffs. Mm-hmm. I don't give him the wild card victory because he wasn't on the field. I think they would have lost that game if it wasn't for Alex Bell. I think they lose that game. Kevin Stefanski called it. So you can get to the playoffs. You're going to lose the first game he coaches.
Yeah,
I think that's the ceiling. I think you got to find a coach that has a higher ceiling than that because they haven't. If the stat is true that he's only had 10 300-yard passing games since he's been there.
No, wait, it's not Terrell, but the 10 have to be pretty recent. Some of those, Flacco had like 4 in a row, didn't he? At the end of the season.
Well, we can tally him up real quick.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure didn't Flacco go over 300? Like
I think in 2020 they had. I know Baker threw against Tennessee and against Cincinnati had 4 touchdowns and a half. Twice that season.
Yeah.
I know they also had no wide receivers that season because of COVID, so that's kill you. And they played
last year they had 4 against the Texans, the Bears, the Jaguars, and the Jets. So that's probably all Flacco.
Yeah.
And then let's go 22 pass yards. Pass yards in 22, they only had 1 316 against the Bills.
Okay.
In 2021,
Okay.
so pass yards, they
So
only
10.
had 2 against
Yeah.
the Chiefs. I think that was week 1. And
Uh-huh.
against the Chargers, they
Yes.
had 301. But look
Yeah.
at these passing numbers.
Yeah.
222 yards, 217 yards, 210, 208, 203.
Mhm.
You got a 118 in there. You got a one. This is from an offensive coach, and let's just take it to 2020 just to wrap it up real quick. Pass yards. You had 3
Yeah.
in 2020, 355 against the Ravens, 340 against the Titans, 316 against the Bengals.
I was at
If
that
he's-
Ravens game. Yeah.
So I just don't get what more do we want to see. You've seen it.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get multiple 400-yard passing games. He's had a number 1 pick in Baker Mayfield.
Mhm.
We saw what he did with Joe Flacco, and I get that Deshaun Watson's been up and down, but I
Well,
think at some point
let's
you
all
gotta-
hope for. I mean, let's see what Deshaun does. We saw progress. Saw some good things last week, and this defense with the Washington Commanders, especially against the pass, is not that strong. Let's take our final takes. Sam, what do you think? Final takes today on the game or anything else?
I mean, I guess I feel like this is a bad example because Jerry Jones and stuff, but Mike McCarthy is now on the hot seat. We all know, well, at least here we know this. If he can't, if he can't turn this season around, it's basically over for him.
Yeah.
And he's won 12 games 3 years in a row. I think it's 3 years. If it's not, he's
Are
won.
they
12
2 and
games
2 right
years.
now? They're 2 and 2,
It's
right?
2. I know it was last year, and I know it was the year before that. But I mean, he's consistently won 12 games. He's made them to the playoffs every single year. Yeah, they haven't. But now it's finally catching up to him that they haven't won a single playoff game since then. Actually, I think they won the wild card round once, but they win one game of playoffs and that's it. And I believe, and now it's finally catching up to him that 12 games of regular season doesn't actually matter almost at all. And I think that's starting to catch up with it hasn't caught up with Stefanski yet because he's won 11 games. We made the playoffs. We had chances to win that game. The final score is a bad final score, but it doesn't really tell the whole story. And I believe he won 2 coaches of the year, which might not be perfect coaches of the year, but they still exist. And owners and teams like that means they're consistent somewhat. And so I believe that they're going to give him another year or 2. But if we win 8 games this year and 8 games next year with arguably the best squad we can have, prime Nick Chubb, prime Myles Garrett, fading away, but still really good Amari Cooper, I think it'll be over. A great defense, I think then it'll be over for him, but not yet, not this year.
Not yet, not this year. Okay. Jarrell, final thoughts?
I'm just looking at the next 4 games, Washington, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, Baltimore. Let's just say they split that and they go 2 and 2. What does that put them at?
3 and 5.
3 and 5. I think at 3 and 5, you got to have real conversations about the coach and what his capabilities are, especially once Nick Chubb gets back, because then there's no excuses. So I don't have high hopes given the current leadership. I think the roster is right. I think they have the pieces. I think they have the requisite pieces.
I'd almost look at it optimistically. If you're 3 and 5 after the stretch of the next 4 games, somehow, I'd still have a little gleaming hope.
I mean,
because if you beat the Chargers, you're 4 and 5 at the bye week.
Is that the bye week then? Okay,
week 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a little softer. It's a little softer when you get to the end of that. But
yeah,
I was optimistic all off season. I've tempered my expectations.
Okay. Yeah, it's fair.
So
it's fair. I think a lot of people are tempering them. Steve, final thought?
God, I hope they win. Thank God the game's on at noon.
You're right.
I mean, when these 3:30 games here on Central Time, they lose. It just ruins my night. I'm a full Band-Aid guy. So if they're going to lose, let's get it over early in the day.
Let's get it done.
So I can stomp around outside and get it out of my system. No, they need to get their tackles back. Luckily, both of them practiced today, and so did Posick, their center. They just need to, like we talked about Sunday morning, John, pregame show. I want to see execution and effort.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you forget the block and how can you forget the tackle?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't.
Well, no.
So
it was
just show me some.
And I hope that the NFL
team that goes on the first drive, show me that team for a full game, and I'll be happy.
Hope the NFL refs don't play too much of a factor. And I know it wasn't the only factor in the Browns' loss the other day, but that was a very ticky-tack call with the handsy call that would have given Cooper a touchdown. So I'm hoping that they don't, do that in this game too much. That is the NFL. That's what happens. But folks, thank you so much for being here on the Fanatical Elfz Network. We want to thank all of you for watching us. Please tune into us on Apple, on Spotify, and thanks to Hemisphere Coffee Roasters. They shake the hand of the coffee farmers. They have amazing coffee. I know Sam does a great job of plugging Hemisphere Coffee Roasters and Browns breakdowns. We get 15%. So if you go buy some coffee, us here, we will split the 15% amongst us. So thank you very much for that. So it is good coffee that you will not. The link.
So what is that? 3.85% per person.
Yeah, right.
A little extra.
The link is on our X page. So please look at that. Click on it. Tell other Browns fans about the Fanatical Elfz. Every day, I swear, like probably you guys, there's at least somebody new every day that I meet that I'll mention. Hey, I've got this podcast where we do the Fanatical Elfz. A bunch of guys, we have all these different shows and we talk Browns just like we're doing right now. Tune in sometime, and it's just cool because Browns fans are like, oh yeah, I know we're getting new listeners all the time, so we appreciate those of you who are listening to us. We have a great group here, a Dog Pound South show with Steve. We got the Dog Food Radio program, and Jarrell, you also sell your own apparel at. You want to tell people where to find that?
Dog Food Store, DAWG foodstore.com.
Okay, good stuff, Sam. Hope the weather stays good there in Dallas, and look forward to
better than it is in North Carolina.
Yes.
Tell me. My nephew hightailed it out of Tallahassee and went to visit a friend in Asheville, North Carolina, and then he got stuck there for 5 days because no roads out of Asheville, North Carolina.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Well, we're very fortunate. Hopefully people are recovering okay. Thank you again. We will have a pregame show Sunday with some of us. I think Steve's nodding his head. We're going to talk about when we'll be on for that. The game does start at noon Central, 1:00 Eastern. We'll have a post-game show that night as well, so tune into that. Always fun. Jarrell and I did that last Sunday, and that was a great deal of fun, even though it was a loss. So, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Take care, everybody, and go Browns. Here we go.
Guardians.
Here we go, Brownies.
Go Browns.
See ya.
Go Guardians. Go Browns.
Yeah, go Guards. Go Guards. Saturday at 1.